Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Payment extorted by gangsters on threat of violence. Every store in the neighborhood had to pay him protection. A covering that is intended to protect from damage or injury. They had no protection from the fallout. Defense against financial failure, financial independence. Insurance provided protection against loss of wages due to illness. The imposition of duties or quotas on imports in order to protect domestic industry against foreign competition. He made trade protection a plank in the party platform. Kindly endorsement and guidance. The condition of being protected. They were huddled together for protection. The activity of protecting someone or something. The witnesses demanded police protection. Payment extorted by gangsters on threat of violence. Something given or done as an expression of esteem. Payment by one nation for protection by another. A covering that is intended to protect from damage or injury. A covering that is intended to protect from damage or injury. The tough natural covering of some organisms. Defense against financial failure, financial independence. His pension gave him security in his old age. A formal declaration that documents a fact of relevance to finance and investment. The holder has a right to receive interest or dividends. An electrical device that sets off an alarm when someone tries to break in. A department responsible for the security of the institution's property and workers. The head of security was a former policeman. A guarantee that an obligation will be met. Property that your creditor can claim in case you default on your obligation. Bankers are reluctant to lend without good security. Measures taken as a precaution against theft or espionage or sabotage, etc. Military security has been stepped up since the recent uprising. Freedom from anxiety or fear. The watchdog gave her a feeling of security. The state of being free from danger or injury. We support the armed services in the name of national security. The imposition of duties or quotas on imports in order to protect domestic industry against foreign competition. He made trade protection a plank in the party platform. Kindly endorsement and guidance. Armor plate that protects the chest, the front part of a cuirass. Kindly endorsement and guidance. The tournament was held under the auspices of the city council. A way of organizing business to reduce the taxes it must pay on current earnings. The condition of being protected. A structure that provides privacy and protection from danger. Invest money so that it is not taxable. Protective covering that provides protection from the weather. Provide shelter for. After the earthquake, the government could not provide shelter for the thousands of homeless people. Temporary housing for homeless or displaced persons. An exorbitant charge. The felonious act of extorting money, as by threats of violence. Unjust exaction, as by the misuse of authority. The extortion by dishonest officials of fees for performing their sworn duty. The act of concealing the existence of something by obstructing the view of it. The work of applying something. A natural object that covers or envelops. under a covering of dust. An artifact that covers something else, usually to protect or shelter or conceal it. The act of protecting something by covering it. Anything of material value or usefulness that is owned by a person or company. The act of imposing something, as a tax or an embargo. An uncalled for burden. He listened but resented the imposition. Something or someone that causes trouble, a source of unhappiness. He's not a friend, he's an infliction. The act of imposing something, as a tax or an embargo. An act causing pain or damage. A signature that validates something. A speech seconding a motion. The act of endorsing. Formal and explicit approval. A promotional statement, as found on the dust jackets of books. A signature that validates something. The cashier would not cash the check without an endorsement. A speech seconding a motion. The act of endorsing. A star athlete can make a lot of money from endorsements. Formal and explicit approval. A Democrat usually gets the union's endorsement. A promotional statement, as found on the dust jackets of books. An organic process that takes place in the body. Respiratory activity. The state of being active. His sphere of activity. The trait of being active, moving or acting rapidly and energetically. The level of activity declines with age. A process existing in or produced by nature, rather than by the intent of human beings. Volcanic activity. Any specific behavior. They avoided all recreational activity. Chemistry, the capacity of a substance to take part in a chemical reaction. Catalytic activity. Protective covering consisting of a metal part that covers the engine. The mechanic removed the cowling in order to repair the plane's engine. A protective covering that is part of a plant. Lie at the top of. Snow capped the mountains. The upper part of a column that supports the entablature. A fruiting structure resembling an umbrella or a cone that forms the top of a stalked fleshy fungus such as a mushroom. A mechanical or electrical explosive device or a small amount of explosive can be used to initiate the reaction of a disrupting explosive. An upper limit on what is allowed. They established a cap for prices. Dentistry, dental appliance consisting of an artificial crown for a broken or decayed tooth. A tight-fitting headdress. A top, as for a bottle. Restrict the number or amount of. We had to cap the number of people we can accept into our club. Something serving as a cover or protection. A protective covering that protects the outside of a building. A low transparent cover put over young plants to protect them from cold. A woman's close-fitting hat that resembles a helmet. A covering, plate or mat, that protects the surface of a table, i.e., from the condensation on a cold glass or bottle. A resident of a coastal area. Someone who coasts. Protective covering consisting of a wooden frame with a glass top in which small plants are protected from the cold. A recording of a song that was first recorded or made popular by somebody else. They made a cover of a Beatles song. Form a cover over. The grass covered the grave. Clothe, as if for protection from the elements. Cover your head. A fixed charge by a restaurant or nightclub over and above the charge for food and drink. The act of concealing the existence of something by obstructing the view of it. The cover concealed their guns from enemy aircraft. Travel across or pass over. The caravan covered almost 100 miles each day. Span an interval of distance, space or time. The period covered the turn of the century. A covering that serves to conceal or shelter something. Under cover of darkness. Include in scope. Include as part of something broader. Have as one sphere or territory. This should cover everyone in the group. Fire that makes it difficult for the enemy to fire on your own individuals or formations. Artillery provided covering fire for the withdrawal. Put something on top of something else. Cover the meat with a lot of gravy. A natural object that covers or envelops. Under a covering of dust. The protective covering on the front, back, and spine of a book. Make up for shortcomings or a feeling of inferiority by exaggerating good qualities. Bedding that keeps a person warm in bed. He pulled the covers over his head and went to sleep. Hide from view or knowledge. The president covered the fact that he bugged the offices in the White House. Be responsible for reporting the details of, as in journalism. The cub reporter covered New York City. Covering for a hole, especially a hole in the top of a container. Put the cover back on the kettle. Act on verbally or in some form of artistic expression. The course covered all of Western civilization. Sit on, eggs. The female covers the eggs. Protect by insurance. The insurance won't cover this. Cover as if with a shroud. Copulate with a female, used especially of horses. The horse covers the mare. A false identity and background, especially one created for an undercover agent. Her new name and passport or cover for her next assignment. Be responsible for guarding an opponent in a game. Be sufficient to meet, defray, or offset the charge or cost of. Is this enough to cover the check? Help out by taking someone's place and temporarily assuming his responsibilities. She is covering for our secretary who is ill this week. Hold within range of an aimed firearm. Invest with a large or excessive amount of something. She covered herself with glory. Maintain a check on, especially by patrolling. The second officer covered the top floor. Play a higher card than the one previously played. Smith covered again. Protect or defend, a position in a game. He covered left field. Provide for. The grant doesn't cover my salary. Provide with a covering or cause to be covered. Cover her face with a handkerchief. Spread over a surface to conceal or protect. This paint covers well. To take an action to protect against future problems. Count the cash in the drawer twice just to cover yourself. Protective covering consisting of a metal part that covers the engine. The mechanic removed the cowling in order to repair the plane's engine. A loose hood or hooded robe, as worn by a monk. Cover with or as with a cowl. Cowl the boys and veil the girls. Colorless glass made of almost pure silica. A protective cover that protects the face of a watch. A rock formed by the solidification of a substance, has regularly repeating internal structure, external plane faces. A crystalline element used as a component in various electronic devices. A solid formed by the solidification of a chemical and having a highly regular atomic structure. Glassware made of quartz. Instrument panel on an automobile or airplane containing dials and controls. Protective covering consisting of a panel to protect people from the splashing water or mud, etc. A large piece of cloth used to cover furniture that is not in use for a long period. A paper jacket for a book. A jacket on which promotional information is usually printed. A removable plastic protective covering for a piece of equipment. A shield, especially one displaying a coat of arms. A flat protective covering, on a door or wall, etc., to prevent soiling by dirty fingers. Nautical. A plate on a ship's stern on which the name is inscribed. A protective covering for the front of a machine or device, as a door lock or computer component. A protective covering that protects the outside of a building. An ornamental coating to a building. Providing something with a surface of a different material. A lining applied to the edge of a garment for ornamentation or strengthening.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.